With that, it's time that I invite Satvik here to present you what we have been cooking last month and what is there for you all for coming month. Over to you, Satvik.
Thank you very much, Juhi. As you guys can tell, we happen to be in the office again today for this special occasion where, like Juhi said, I'm very happy to be able to do this again 3 months in a row. Uh, Thanks for the slides. Yeah, so I am looking forward to first starting by wishing some of our early risers on the west side of the planet. Good morning, good afternoon to the folks who come from the central part of the planet, Europe, and so on. And of course, good evening to the folks who are here on the Asian continent. Right? Very excited to be here again. And this is the most interesting part for me, where I have the opportunity to come on this floor and share with you what my team has been working on for the last month and what you can look forward to seeing from the community, from the platform's perspective in the coming weeks as well, right? It gives us an opportunity to not only put our work in front of you, but also to try and prepare you for what is happening. So if we can move to the next slide. We'll first start with what is top of mind. I think one of the things we've been trying to do on our team here, especially with respect to our developer relations efforts, is try to give you guys more of a voice, right? So that excited little girl there is Juhi. Actually not. That is a representation of the developer platform itself, right? And people want to sort of give their voice in terms of how the experience is working with the Freshworks developer platform. And we would like to listen to what you have. So you guys have been posting a lot of feedback on the community for the last few months, maybe even the last couple of years. Maybe you feel that some of the feedback is not acted upon, and perhaps some of the changes based on the feedback don't happen as soon as they should. We have heard you, and I think one of the things we are trying to put in place, special thanks to the developer relations and the engineering teams together, is build these feedback loops, right? So you will see some action on this front very soon. Especially you'll hear about more of the things we are doing from the community perspective based on what feedback you have given us. That will happen through the advocacy program, right? So the idea is that developer advocates act as the bridge, distill your feedback and bring it back to the engineering teams and the product management teams, and try to make sure that we come back to you with important updates which are directly related to some of the things that you have told us. Because at the end of the day, if users like yourself are telling us what we should be doing, we want to listen to you, right? So watch out for how things shape up, but I am very positive about this being one of the important drivers for how things happen on the platform. So moving forward, let's quickly check out what has happened since the last time we met, right? So the last Thursday of every month is where I get the opportunity to share with you what we have been doing in the last month. So our DevRel team has been working hard on making sure that both new developers, because we see a lot of new developers joining our community, and seasoned developers like many of you here on the call, are comfortable taking up new challenges on our platform. And so one of the ways we are going to do that is make sure you have a lot more tutorials and content to help you. And so here are some examples of some of the things that we've already put out in the last 4 weeks. There are more on the way. So by the time we catch up again, you should hope to have a lot more tutorials again listed on our tutorials portal. You may have noticed that there is a new FDK version out there as well. For once, we actually moved on to the new update of Node sooner than waiting for the end of life to be announced. And so now you can build apps on Node 14 using the FDK 8.0 version, right? More importantly, we learned a lot of lessons from the FDK 7 upgrade, where there were a lot of challenges that you guys had experienced. And so we've tried to make sure that some of those challenges do not repeat. Especially there is also a detailed migration guide you can see this time to help you port your applications if you want to start having them work with the new platform, in this case Node 14. The other important announcement I had sort of tried to give you a heads up for was obviously custom objects. As you will remember, custom objects was available only for Freshdesk earlier this year, but today in fact, when I say today, it means today, right? You should be able to now do this with fresh service as well, right? There was an announcement just a few hours earlier. You can go check out the forum on how you can get started. There's also a sample application to help you understand how to do this with Freshworks, with Fresh Service. So that is the next big step we did for custom objects. FDK 8 was quickly followed with FDK 8.1, where we ensured that you can build serverless apps with ES 2020 support. And more importantly, dependency management inside the apps is now managed through NPM, right? This was one gap we wanted to fix very soon, and 8.1 has addressed that. So let's try to look forward to what you can expect in the coming weeks. Some of the things the team is working on is primarily focusing on your requests that come in through Dev Assist. Sometimes you may feel that the requests coming on our Dev Assist portal are not handled as soon as they can, right? And we hear you, mainly because we also have some challenges with respect to making sure we are staffed appropriately to handle these incoming requests. One of the easiest ways, obviously, we can do it is by investing more in automation, right? So that is one of the things our team is actively working on. We have identified the most frequent requests that come in on Dev Assist, and we are building automations to help our team support you with these requests sooner, so that we can have more tighter turnaround times. App reviews have continued to improve in terms of how quickly we are able to respond back, but we realize there's a lot more we can do, especially if you're trying to urgently support customers with a new app. So one of the new changes that will happen with the app review process to ensure you get faster feedback is that we will run all the review phases, which is quality and code review and security review, in parallel. And as soon as one finishes, you'll get feedback for that particular phase, right? We'll not have you wait for all the phases to complete, so that you can immediately start acting upon the feedback and improve your application. You may have noticed as a Freshworks developer, you have to today go to 6 different portals if you're working on 6 different products. And so obviously this is not a great experience. And so we have been working on actually coming up with a unified portal where you can view all Freshworks documentation in one place. Is obviously more effective for us as well to maintain in the longer term. So in the coming weeks, you can look forward to a new launch right under freshworks.dev, where you will find documentation starting with all the app SDK documentation in a single portal. Lastly, one of the things that we've been trying to improve with respect to how the experience is for developers like yourself to test and improve your applications is to see if we can give you a better way to test your applications in your own customer sandboxes, right? So the first step we are trying to take towards that is to support this concept of a test version, right? So previously, when you deploy an application through the app management portal into a Freshdesk or Freshservice account, it essentially behaves just like any other custom application, right? And all agents will be able to see it, and it sort of shows up in everyone's view. So we are trying to come up with a new concept called a test version, which developers can essentially alone try to use for their testing. And it will not necessarily impact how agents are able to work with their apps, right? So this is something also to look forward to in the coming weeks. So I'm very excited. There's a lot more happening, which I would like to share very soon, but we'll have to wait for another 4 weeks so that I can come back and share with you what you can look forward to. But for now, I hope all of this will keep you excited. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Kaushal and his team. They have been working very hard over the last few months. You may have seen the new release of Crayons V3 go out over the last few weeks, and it was a very exciting upgrade. But what you will learn today is the kind of changes we've made, the philosophy behind why we've been building it like this, and all the cool things that you can do. I think Crayons is a lot more powerful today than it was earlier today. And so this next session is dedicated just to Crayons. And so I let Kaushal and his team take away from here. Kaushal?
Hey, thanks, Satvik, for that exciting introduction. And hello, all, and a warm welcome to you all. We are excited to have you here at this webinar session. I am Kaushal. I am part of the front-end Center of Excellence team here at Freshworks. And we have been extremely busy this past 6 months building the V3 release of Crayons, and we are eager to show off our work to all of you devs out there. And more importantly, get your feedback and your questions, because that is what keeps us going here at Freshworks. That said, oops, what is this? So for all of you who are new to Crayons, I would just like to take a few seconds in giving a brief introduction to what Crayons is. Crayons is a design library of commonly used components built by Freshworks, and it's an open source design system. And most importantly, it adheres to the Freshworks design specification that our design team here comes out with. The advantage of this is that all the front end that you build will be conformant with our design specifications. Secondly, it is built on the web components technology and comes with React wrappers, so which makes Crayons truly cross-platform. So you can, you very easily use it on plain vanilla HTML, JavaScript applications, React, Ember, whatever new other stuff that comes out in the JavaScript ecosystem every 6 months, right? So you are free to use it on whatever platform that you're working on right now. So that being said, I'm sure the most common question that most of you are having is, why should you use it, right? So why should you use Crayons? The Crayons component library is built with flexibility and comes with rich interfaces, which are, like I said, consistent with the Freshworks product design and experience. It is contrary to popular conception that it's just a design library of components, atomic components. Crayons today is on its way to becoming a full end-to-end design system that will help you build front-end apps from start to finish, right? The way it has been growing from V1, V2, V3, we are, our main goal is to make it an enterprise-grade component library system that, starting from simple atomic components, goes all the way up to complex subsystems. And finally, it's easy to use. You can use it either as a CDN link or as a build time NPM dependency. One of the, as I will cover further down the line, one of the main work that we have done for V3 is to bring in tree shaking, which helps you build your final bundle size. In V2, what would happen is the entire Crayons library would get bundled into your app. Here, from V3, whatever components that you use, those are the only things that would get added to your final application bundle. And finally, it's as simple as dropping a few HTML tags into your app and passing in a few properties, and you're all set. So this is the most exciting thing. Your feedback so far, your questions, your requests formed our North Star for building V3 release of Crayons. And I'm extremely happy to announce that we've covered, well, almost all of them. There is one point that is, in the roadmap, which would be coming out in the next few months. So we brought in, we listened to you. Your most common requests, like, complex components like tables, layouts, right? Accordions, a lot of CSS classes, typography configuration, all of those things, all of these goodies have been included in V3. Right, we are coming up with templates pretty soon, and that should be out in the next few months. And this is what excites us the most, right? When we see the massive adoption of Crayons. Crayons V3, like Satvik mentioned, was released just last month. So in the short span of 1 month that it's been out in the wild, already 60 apps adopted to it, which excites us a lot. And overall, close to 3,500 apps are using Crayons today, which is, for us a thrilling number. And we look forward to, and looking at the way it has been growing, in leaps and bounds. We are excited to see, what you guys can do with this component library going forward. So what is new in V3? right? We've added close to 18 plus components to the collection, taking the overall count to close to 40. And all components now, we spent a lot of effort in this specific area in terms of making them all accessibility compliant, starting from color combinations to various keyboard support, right? As I'm sure you're all aware, accessibility is a very important topic today. And we have strived a lot to ensure that our components, are all accessibility compliant. We have, consulted with various internal accessibility consultants and, ensured that our components are, comply with, quite a few of the, regulations out there. The other important thing is Crayons now comes with a React wrapper. Those of you who are familiar with the web component technology, are aware that there is a bit of friction between web components and React. So we have taken care of that. We have introduced a lot of CSS variables so that Crayons doesn't become a one size fits all kind of a library, right? You are able to configure it and set it up the way you want it. Like I said, a tree shakeable bundle, it ensures that your final app bundle is, reduced in size, and we don't end up adding a lot of, size to your final app bundle. There is now internationalization support. We are constantly adding new languages to Crayons. We've added a lot more icons to our icon library. Again, this was a very common ask from the developer community. And now in our documentation, we have revamped the complete documentation, and we have now introduced code samples in React as well. So now let's look at a few handpicked components from V3, right? Some of the bigger ones that we've spent a lot of time building. The first one that I'm really excited to announce is the data table. This is a new component. It's driven by a JSON input. So programmatically, you can build your data tables. There are various functionalities like you can select rows, customize your cells. You can customize your columns. You can also have various data formatting options. I would just like to take a few minutes to show you these components. So let me just exit the presentation and go to data table. So as you can see here, this is the component, and if you were to see the way it is powered entirely by JSONs, you can create your columns, set up your columns, and then your rows and your cells. So if you would like to, if you want to add a new row, it is just about adding another JSON element in your data, and you're good to go. If you were to do that, you would have a new row in your table, right? And this is also one of the other functionality that I would like to demonstrate about the documentation side. There is live code, the live editing, so you can actually play around with in the documentation site itself, and see what are all the things that you can do. You can customize your cells, like you can set up anchor tags for links. You can even have complex avatar kind of a cell where you want to show details of users and the names and photos and things like that. All of this through common JSON objects. So the aim is that programmers should be able to consume these JSONs and set up display their tables. You can have icons. You can also have paragraphs, right? So all of these things are things that come out of the box. Again, you can have your own custom templates as well. You can cobble together your own cells, right? And finally, what I wanted to show, the other one was how you can configure. So if you have a JSON with a lot of columns, you can actually choose which columns you would want to show, and your users can, after the table is drawn, they can, customize the table the way they want. So that is the first component. The second one that we are really excited about is the dynamic form. Some of the salient features of the form are it comes with built-in validations. We have added a lot of validation, but you can also use third-party validations like YEP-based rules. You can set up initial values for your forms. You can also have error values, errors and values dynamically set up. You can submit and reset forms programmatically. Right? Let me just show you that. So this is a typical form. As you can see, you can have various types of input elements. You can have radio buttons, checkboxes. You can have drop downs, right? And if you were to submit, there is a client side validations that happen and errors are shown. You can if you were to, so the setup of the form is also through JSONs. So it should be pretty simple and straightforward. You can set up your choices for your drop downs like this. What is there that I can show? Yeah. So we have two types of forms. We have dynamic form and you can set up static forms as well. So if you don't want to use a JSON based setup, we can also cobble together your own form, static form, and show that. The dynamic form is more often used in by custom object functionality that Satvik just mentioned. Is there anything else? That's it, right? The next one that we are excited about is the drop down and select component, right? This is, we have added a whole lot of variations to this component, starting from a simple drop down select. We have data driven models. We have a dynamic search functionality where you can pass in a search function as a prop, and we would call that. You can even make search API calls to your server, retrieve data, and add it to the drop down. And also it has accessibility improvements in terms of keyboard navigation. So you can set up your drop down like so. You can have single selects. If you want, you can have multiple selector option. You can have warnings. You can show warnings and error messages right there. What else can we show? Data. Yeah. And if you want to set up a data source, you can actually do that via an input JSON, or you can also set up static data like this and say which one of it is selected. Going further down, you can dynamically set the selected options in your drop down programmatically. You can also do filter, right? So let's say I want to, what is the BET. So if you were to search, you would get this. So you can have a dynamic search functionality. Next is you can have email types. You can have literally large number of we support large list collections without any jitter or hanging. And of course it exposes a lot of styling properties that you can use to configure this drop down, and a whole host of API methods. So coming to the roadmap, so what's cooking? What are we working on right now? We are bringing in advanced theming support. That is one of the, especially for those devs out there who are working on multiple Freshworks apps like Freshdesk, Freshsales. I'm sure you would have noticed that the theme for Freshdesk is slightly different from that of Freshsales. Now, if you were to do that in V2, you would have to restyle all of the components to ensure that it is in line with the product theme. Now we are bringing in design tokens and theming support, so you can quickly reconfigure on the fly crayons and change the theme, right? So you don't have to do the heavy lifting of having to restyle your entire front end to suit the parent application's styling. The other thing that we are excited about is we are bringing in RTL support so that you can support languages like Hebrew and Arabic to ensure that you can start using crayons quickly. We are coming up with a lot of cookbooks that also show you how to use these components in conjunction with other components. Build up sample UI screens. So our aim is to come up with so many cookbooks that it should just be a copy paste for all of you devs out there. We are also working on better code samples and integrating it with Code Sandbox. The list of new components that we are working on is rather large, but some of the things that we are looking at is date time picker, breadcrumbs, relative time components. And like I said, we are bringing in a lot more variants for each of the components, like the one that you just saw of the drop down and select options. We have endless number of variants so that you don't have to build them. We are also working, we realize that the data table that we have brought out is just the V1. So we would like to bring in a lot more configuration and freedom for you to use the table component in terms of in-cell editing. We're bringing in a lot of filtering functions built into the table so that when you're showing a lot of data in your table, you can bringing filtering functionality out of the box. And finally, we would like you to let us know what you want to see in crayons moving forward. Like I said in one of the previous screens, your feedback is what is our guiding star, and we would like to hear from you. So that is a quick introduction to Crayons V3, and I'm sure, and I look forward to you all using Crayons V3 and giving us your valuable feedback. But if you have any questions, we would love to take them up now. These are some of the resources that you can go to get more information about crayons. There are tutorials and sample apps that the wonderful developer relations team has come up with, and I'm sure they will go a long way in helping you adopt to crayons. But should you need anything, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us and help us in advancing the crayons collection more.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of questions around crayons. One, I think Aravindan just answered. Kaushal and team, do you want to take the other query from Kavin first around?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
dropdowns?
definitely. Yeah, what was the question? I'm sorry.
So it basically says that when the drop-down got selected, there is no property to unselect the same. If the unselect property is included in the next update, it will really help. Any thoughts or plans around this?
Yeah, just 1 second. Yeah. How did you unselect?
Okay, so Kevin, so to answer the question, so basically, like if you want to unselect the already selected value, you can pass. You can either use the existing set methods we have provided as part of FW list options, like set selected options or set selected value. So you can just pass as a empty string or an empty array, be it a single select or multi-select. In those cases, the already selected value will be unselected. So we have exposed the methods in Crayons V3. FW list options.
Excellent. Thanks. There is another question on crayons. I'll let you guys take that before we go to Samuel's question as well. While pre-populating, we are not able to see the selected value on the select box. I think this is related to the select component. Any comments on this?
Just a second. We are just looking at that question.
Sure.
I mean, we can use a value called, we can use a property called value to set the initial value for the select. So it is already available. Or you can also use set selected options or set selected values to set the initial value from the select.
So you have the get selected item, set selected options, right, and set selected value, these APIs. If you want to unselect something, you have to just either send an empty array or an empty string, and it would unselect whatever was already selected.
And the same thing goes for if you want to do any selected value.
Yeah. So these API methods would help you do that.
Awesome. Hopefully that helps
Yeah.
the person who asked that. Cool. We'll take the last open question, but of course, if you have more questions, we'll hang around. Please go ahead and post your follow-up questions. So Samuel, very great question. This has been one of the things we have been trying to answer ourselves. How and where should custom objects be available for our developers? You will notice that custom objects is also available as a customer facing feature, right? And that is where the tension starts. But we are essentially committed to helping our developers solve their problems using custom objects, because if it is coming out as a very critical building block for you to solve many of your problems, we want to make sure that that is possible, right? I will request our developer relations team, perhaps Kaustav, you can take this initiative for us to maybe start some kind of a survey or a poll from our developer community to understand how basic they believe the custom objects requirement is. And we will take that input and feed it back into our product management so that they have the right data points to make this decision, right? So technically, it is not a challenge. It basically comes down to making sure that we are being fair to all kinds of users and customers. But I'll let Kaustav drive that initiative for us. And rest assured, we want to make sure that custom objects serves all those use cases that you had in mind. But I'll work with you guys and the developer relations team to sort out the internal challenges to make this possible. Thanks for asking that question and helping us start this initiative. I think there was one more question which was answered by Arvind already.
Hi, Satvik. Hi, Zuhi.
Hello.
Actually, thanks for your previous inputs, which I asked. So I have one more query is that most of the I think Crayons has built in a root within the inside the root tag. So if I want to edit the changes inside that root, inside the root element, so that is pretty much difficult to add a new style to inside that root element. So is there any way to add a custom styles inside the root element, inside the root tags? Is there any ways to do that?
Actually, we ideally do not recommend. So we actually provide something called CSS variables to an extent which you can use to customize the components. But in general, the main purpose of using these web components is to follow a particular design guidelines. And being a web component, we do not usually recommend overriding the styles, but we also give you customization via CSS variables, which you can use to style.
Yeah, I think if I understand your question correctly, it's about how you can go and modify the root element itself. We do not recommend modifying the DOM tree structure directly. And we would like to recommend using the officially provided interfaces, the API methods, the CSS variables. By doing this, we can also ensure that you have complete protection from backward compatibility issues, right? But if you were to go and modify the component on your own, then we would not be able to do much there. So that is why our endeavor has been to provide as many interfaces as possible, be it in terms of accepting JSON-based props or CSS variables. We have provided a lot of CSS styling classes, right? And each of the components exposes a lot of configuration elements, right? So we constantly strive to ensure that we make it as configurable as possible. But even over and beyond this, if there is something that you feel is necessary, please do let us know, and we will see how we can bring it in.
Sure. That's great. Thank you for your inputs.
And also, I would like to add to what she already said, is that we are also, keenly following up on the portal, the Dev Relations portal. Since we are, eagerly looking forward to any feedback or any bugs or any issues that might come up. Please go ahead and post your comments or questions there as well, and we'll assure you that we'll get back to you as soon as possible.
I think, like Tanmay mentioned, we have all the recordings available under a happening section at the community forum. So in case if you ever happen to miss any of our community hours, you can go there and check it out. And if you don't have any questions for this session, then we would like to wrap up. But I think there is a question which somebody is answering. And if you want us to wait for a few more minutes, we can. But I think we will need the Q&A section to be active, and even you can raise your hand if you want to.
Yeah, just that one question that just came in, I thought would be important to let everybody else know. This is regarding the availability of the previous versions of Crayons. So I'd just like to let you all know that the previous versions are still available. You can still continue to use them, right? So that shouldn't be a problem.
I think we have one person who wants to ask the question live. Raghul, you can ask now.
Yes, ma'am. I have only one question. That Kaushal has answered. I think the previous version we were facing that issue in our existing app. It was just hanged up. That's what I just raised up that question. So is it, or we want to update the previous apps, or it will be available for the rest of the versions? I'm asking. Will it be available?
Yes, it'll be available. I'm just showing you how to access the previous version. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
I hope you all can see my screen. So if you go here, you can see the documentation for the previous version. So if you click on, let's say, the older one, you can go to the older V2 version. And if you go in there, you have the complete V2 version. So if you want to install the older version, it is available here. The CDN link is there. So all of that is there. So and then you can switch back to the V3 version.
Okay. And Satvik, I see there is one more open question in the Q&A section. Can somebody please answer that?
The question is, when we dynamically create drop-down using the DOM, the mandatory symbol breaks. Why is it breaking only in that scenario? Let us take a look at it, and we'll get back to you. If you could post it in the developer relations site, we can follow up with you and get back to you on this.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions or a raise of hand. And with that, I think it's time that we wrap up. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And like we always mention, you can go and check out the happening section where we will post the recording of this session in case you want to go back and check the session for while working on any application. And with that, it's time to say bye, and we'll see you again in the next month for the next community house with some other topic.
Yeah,
And
thank you,
so
everybody. I really enjoyed talking, taking questions and, discussing with you. Thanks a lot for being on the session.
Yes. And if you still have any questions, feel free to go to the developer community forum and ask them there. Like Kaushal mentioned, we have a team who will help you with all of your queries and answers related to Crayons. So in case you missed asking any of the question, you can ask them on a community forum.